Chapter 38. Where I'll Stay. The minute they arrived, Shellington knew it was too late. Peso was frantically doing compressions on the Marlin, but the Marlin's body was still, his eyes completely lifeless. "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay," Peso muttered over and over. Shellington tensed, taking in a shuddering breath. Dashi touched his arm. "Are you all right?" she asked, her face full of concern. Shellington nodded. His expression must have been convincing enough, because Dashi looked away again. "Don't think about it. Don't think about it. It's over. It's in the past." Peso did not acknowledge them. "Peso?" Captain Barnacles asked. He swam a bit closer to the medic. "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be—" "Peso," Captain Barnacles said again, placing a paw on his shoulder. Peso slowed his movements until he finally stopped, staring down at the body. "He's dead, isn't he?" He said it so quietly. He looked dazed. "I didn't even know his name. I couldn't. We need to go back." The captain wasn't harsh at all, but it had a commanding tone to it. Shellington figured it was like that so the captain could get to the emotionally compromised Peso and get in charge of the situation. The captain knelt next to the penguin on the coral, paw still on his shoulder. "Tweak is taking care of the other survivors that have been hurt. It seems like they only have superficial injuries, so she can take care of it. What's important now is that we take you back to the octopod." Peso nodded. "Okay," he said, an octave higher. "Okay." Captain Barnacles held Peso up, and the four of them slowly swam to the gut bay. The drive back was completely quiet. The sad and awkward atmosphere surrounded Shellington, climbing up his back in shivers and clawing into his heart. Peso was quiet, eyes half-lidded, seeming almost dead himself. It was like a switch had flipped in his head, and he just shut down completely. Shellington could see Captain Barnacles glance at the penguin every few minutes as the polar bear drove. When they finally landed in the launch bay, Quasi ran up to them. "I heard everything on the intercom," Quasi said. "Is everything okay? Is the Marlin safe?" Peso's eyes scrunched up, and his face crumpled. He shook his head. Quasi grew alarmed. "Peso?" "I need to be alone," Peso choked out, running out of the room. Quasi held a paw out. "Peso!" But the penguin didn't stop. Quasi turned to the others. It didn't go well, did it?" "The Marlin died right in front of him," Shellington said, because one of them had to say it out loud, as much as it killed him. Quasi tisked sadly, looking at the exit Peso went through. "Poor guy. I can't even imagine." "And it's worse," Dashi added. "Apparently 3 other fish were killed. It wasn't pretty." "What should we do?" Quasi asked. He seemed lost. "Peso said he wanted to be alone," Captain Barnacle said. "I believe we should adhere to his wishes. Later on, when he calms down a bit, we should come to him. Maybe only one of us, depending on the situation. We shouldn't swarm him." Quasi nodded. "I hope he'll be okay," he murmured. Line break. The octopod was different after the mission, Inkling noted. It was more quiet, more somber. Thank goodness none of the crew themselves were hurt, particularly Dashi and Shellington, who were closest to the shark during the attack. But that was the extent of the shield of safety from the carnage. No one saw Peso for hours, and no one really had the heart to question it. The Octonauts discussed in depth on how to approach Peso, and Professor Inkling immediately volunteered to be the one to talk to the medic. For him, to hear how heartbroken Peso was after the disastrous mission, it made the octopus wish that he hadn't hired him in the first place, just to make sure the young penguin would never have lived through such a tragedy. But he had. That was the reality. And Inkling had to do something. It was his responsibility. Peso needed to be heard and comforted through the loss of someone that he was supposed to save. Inkling knew all too well what that was like. Inkling found that the entrance to the medical bay was locked, which to him was a telling sign. The motion of a soft, boneless tentacle knocking loudly on the metal door was uncomfortable and slightly painful, but it was all worth it in the end. He heard shifting, and a voice appeared on the other side. "Who is it?" The voice sounded like it would crack any second from unshed tears. How could a voice sound so much younger than it actually was? "It's me, Professor Inkling," he replied. The door opened, and the medic peeked out. It was technically impossible, but he seemed smaller than normal, hunched up like he was withering from the inside. "May I come in?" Inkling asked. "Mm-hmm," Peso said, shuffling out of the way. Inkling slithered in, and Peso closed and locked the door behind him. "How are you doing?" Inkling asked gently. He wanted to cut down to the chase. It would be better for Peso that way. Peso sat down on one of the empty beds for patients. There was no one else in the room except for the two of them. It took a good whole minute for Peso to speak. He kept trying to say a sentence, gesturing while doing so, but he always cut himself off. He finally sighed. I don't know. Not good at all. I just keep seeing him. His wound, and I couldn't even... Tears filled his eyes, and he sniffled. Sorry, he said, trying to smile, but it became more of a watery frown. I should be okay with this. This is the risk I decided to take with this career. Has this ever happened before? Inkling asked. Not with me, he replied. It would happen in the hospital I used to work in, but not that often, and not with any of my patients. It was always a possibility. I knew that, but I had to try. But now, he wiped his eyes. It didn't even matter. It does matter, Inkling said, coming a bit closer to him. You can use this to your advantage. Basil sniffled again. What do you mean? I have been in your position once, Inkling said. One day, when I was traveling home, a dolphin crashed nearby me. He was sick. He couldn't breathe. I had no idea how to help him. There were no doctors nearby, no way to get help. He died there, right in front of me. Much like what happened to you today, unfortunately. Wow, Peso breathed. That must have been horrible. But through that loss, I decided to start the Octonauts. It was the push I needed to do it. Now others can be rescued. This situation can be the same for you. You could use this to propel yourself to keep going, to renew your determination. Peso was silent, presumably taking it all in. His face was unreadable. You started the Octonauts just like that? Peso asked. Inkling nodded. Good. Peso seemed to understand what he was getting at. But Peso furrowed his brow, and almost had a look of incomprehensibleness, like he was concentrating too hard. How could you just move on like that? How did it not affect you? Inkling raised an eyebrow. But it did affect me. That's why I started the Octonauts. No, Peso said, and he wrung his flippers agitatedly. He kept looking at the ground in front of him, not looking at Inkling in the eye. How did it push you to do stuff? How did it not stop you from going out into the ocean again? Wouldn't you have wished to be alone? Wouldn't you have wished to say condolences? But instead, you just got up and went away on an adventure. You just got over it. Just like that. Isn't that, I don't know, irreverent of the dead? What? I do it because of the dead. For some reason, Peso flinched and became quiet again, hesitant. I don't want to make you mad again, Peso murmured. Let's talk later. Peso, I'm not angry with you. It sounds like it. What do you mean? The tone of your voice, Peso said quietly. It shows that you're mad. I don't want you to get mad like when we first met. That day raced to the forefront of the professor's mind. Oh, that encounter. When he was pleading with Peso to join them, because he could do great things, because he could save a dolphin who couldn't breathe, when Inkling couldn't. Something heavy and sickly went into Inkling's chest, the same feeling he had in Dr. Galen's office. He didn't like it. He didn't like it one bit. It doesn't sound like you were even sorry for him. Peso wasn't looking at him, but he kept talking. Like once he started, he couldn't stop. Almost like you used him. I did not use him as an excuse. Okay, now Inkling was angry. But not just that. This. Inkling looked around the room, strongly gesturing the octopod. All of this was for him. How could you possibly say that this was for my own gain? Do you know how much I think about that day? How many nights I stay awake, replaying what happened over and over in my mind? How I think about his pod, who he had grown up with. What if he had a mate? What if he had a child? Peso was looking at the ground, hunching in on himself, pure fear on his face. Inkling should have stopped raising his voice, should have noticed. But that unnamed feeling wasn't going away. It kept surging and surging and surging. I could never undo what happened. I wasn't prepared. I didn't know how to help my fellow creature. The one chance I could truly, physically change a life. Not all this worthless research or countless hours teaching in classes. When I could actually save someone. I failed. I have to make up for this. I have to do this, or else I could never live with myself. Peso was looking at him now, all his attention on him. He looked sympathetic, almost like he looked at the octopus with pity. Peso was supposed to be the one telling Inkling his woes, his darkest emotions. Inkling was supposed to be the quiet one, listening intently. But Peso had his full rapt attention on Inkling now. It wasn't supposed to be about him. It does not matter. What I am attempting to say is... What? How could he help someone when he frankly didn't know how to help himself? Because even now, sometimes, the shadow of the dead still hung over him. He thought it had gotten better, but this conversation just proved how much that experience seeped into him, how much it still haunted his every major decision, how much it haunted him. He now understood what this unnamed feeling was. It was despair. He didn't have the right to help Peso, did he? His words failed him, and for the first time, the professor could not continue the lecture. He looked down at his tentacles. Professor? Now Peso was worried, of course. Peso cared so much. I'm supposed to help you, Inkling whispered. I really thought I could, but I couldn't even help myself. I'm sorry. When Peso didn't reply, Inkling sighed. I'm not over the loss. I thought I was. I thought by doing this, I would make the world a better place. I still firmly believe that. But now I see it was also a way for me to make it up to him. If I couldn't save him, then maybe I could save someone else. But that's not bad, is it? I don't know, Peso pondered. It seems dangerous in a way. If you spend your whole life trying to make up for a mistake, for something that you tried so hard to do before but failed, well, it seems like an obsession. It doesn't really seem like a life worth living. But wallowing does not help either, Inkling stated. Peso flinched. Sorry, I'm not saying that you are doing an unhealthy amount, Inkling said. It just happened this morning. Peso lowered his eyes. I'm speaking of when creatures wallow for unhealthy amounts of time, not doing anything. Wouldn't you say that it also allows loss to dominate their lives? Well, when you put it like that... Peso suddenly hit the sides of his bed with his flippers. Then how do we go on? If we do something, it's wrong. If we don't do something, it's wrong too. There's no way out of this. Can we ever feel better? Should we even? Peso, Inkling said gravely. Things may seem dark now, but I am convinced that there is light on the other side. There is a way to overcome this. Don't lose hope, my boy. But what if it happens again? What if I can't save them again? I can't handle that. The professor was silent for a few moments. Would you want to go back? Inkling asked quietly. Back to Antarctica? Peso seemed to jolt at the words. What? If it's too much, I can't force you to stay here, Inkling replied somberly. Even with all these questions, I at least know that would be wrong. Conflict oozed from Peso's expression. I could see my family again, Peso said. He thought for a few moments, wiped his eyes again. Can I have some time to think about this? Peso asked. I need some time. All right, Inkling complied. Do you need anything else, Peso? No, thank you, he replied curtly. If it's all right with you, I think I'd like to be alone. Please. All right, Inkling said, trying to keep his expression from falling. He turned towards the door. If you need anything, let any of us know. We'll be here for you. Thanks, Peso said quietly, ever the polite creature. Once the door was closed, Inkling leaned against the wall in the hallway. He heard the door get locked behind him. He breathed out and put a tentacle to his face. He absolutely, positively failed. Again. He couldn't help his teammate. He couldn't do anything. Breathing another weary sigh, he pushed himself from the wall and headed away, glancing back at the door one last time. Line break. After Inkling left the room, Peso couldn't stand sitting around anymore. Peso got up and locked the automatic door. He then proceeded to pace back and forth, ringing his flippers. He dimly remembered how his grandmother told him to never do that. Pacing wasn't polite, but he was never quite able to break that nervous tick. What should I do? The shark, it... Should I stay or... Blood was everywhere. His side, it was... Stop! He said, raising his voice. He couldn't concentrate. His thoughts always circled back to the event. He couldn't escape it. He wished he had taken an interest in psychology instead of just the physical side of the medical field. Then he would have been able to tell if something was wrong with his own mind. He had said he would stay here, be an Octonaut, even if it was the death of him. But he wasn't prepared for the death of others. How could he possibly be? He's the weak one, the timid one, the sensitive one. Of course he would not be able to handle it. Of course he would not be able to make a difference here. Should he leave? Pack up his bags and go home to his family? Oh, how he missed them. Pogo ruffling the top of his head as he passed, which Quasi did sometimes, which Peso found ironic yet endearing. Sledding with Pinto, having family get-togethers, being able to ask his mother for advice. He really needed that now, that's for sure. He could get a job at Dr. Galen's hospital again. He was confident that the doctor would take him back. He was the one who gave Inkling the recommendation in the first place. Sure, Dr. Galen might be disappointed in him, allowing a patient to die through his sheer inadequacy, calling him a coward for running back with his tail between his legs. But what would he know? Whenever tragedy happened, Dr. Galen handled it like a pro. Among all his other achievements, he's a psychologist too, so he could even handle the breakdowns of others. Peso was not Dr. Galen. He wasn't great, and it was stupid for Galen to have said otherwise. He sighed and stopped waddling. Peso looked out the window. He didn't know how long he stayed there, pondering over everything. Life, death, purpose. All he knew was that the water outside was getting darker and darker as the sun moved. He finally found out about Inkling, what had caused such an outburst before in their first meeting. The subject was like a fire, setting Inkling off like one of those firecrackers Peso and his brothers would light on Christmas Eve. At least the professor wasn't in denial anymore that the dolphin didn't affect his emotions. Peso leaned one flipper against the counter, propping up his head with it. He kept looking at the window. There was a reflection of himself in it, growing ever more apparent as the water slowly turned into darkness. Could Inkling ever move on? Could he? It must be possible, right? Every generation must deal with the loss of the prior. His grandparents had to deal with it, and they were the most kind and joyful creatures he knows. Should he call his relatives? Ask them for the advice that he kept saying that he wanted? In all honesty, he probably couldn't handle another emotional outburst. Who knows? Maybe the creatures who he thought had handled it never really have. What a depressing thought. The water turned black, signaling that the sun had set. Maybe I should go to bed, Peso murmured. There was a curfew on board that he was supposed to follow, but he had a feeling that no one would come in here to enforce it on him. There were no missions tomorrow, and, even if there were, he had the feeling that he had been relieved of duty for now. Maybe sleep could stop the endless buzzing in his head. Peso put his face in his flippers. Who was he kidding? He wouldn't be able to go to sleep tonight. That, ironically, was the breaking point. He growled. Why did this have to happen? He asked out loud. Why do predators have to eat prey? Why can't we find a way to fix this? Why did I have to be there to see it? He looked up at the ceiling. Why do I have to be here? Is this even my purpose? Why did you make me? Why did you make it like this? I just want this pain to end. I just want this all to be better. And a whisper sounded through the night. A quiet one, but one that went right into his heart. That is why I put you here. He felt a presence there, something otherworldly, resting on him, seeping into his slippers. Somehow, it made him see the light in the darkness. One creature had died, but how many have been saved by Peso's work? It must have been dozens, maybe 100 by now. If he stayed here, that number would grow. More creatures would get better. More lives would be saved. He felt a fire within him, pulsing through him, stirring. This pure energy, adrenaline. Was this righteous anger? Some godly determination? He didn't know. He had never felt like this. It couldn't matter how much it hurt. It couldn't matter how much pain it caused him. He was there for a reason. He was there for a purpose. He couldn't turn his back on the creatures he could save. He said he would pursue it, even if it meant the death of him. Well, let it. It didn't have to be a physical one. It could be a mental one. It could be an emotional one. Let him bleed. Let him become an empty husk. It wouldn't matter, because this was so much more important, much bigger than him. He couldn't let this go, no matter what. I won't let this go! He looked back at his reflection, small amongst the vastness of the ocean outside. He teared up, grit his beak. He shut his eyes, yelling as if no one might hear him. yelling as if he didn't care about what others may think. Because for the first time in his life, he truly didn't. Whatever happens, I'll stay. I'm not leaving. I don't care if I can't do it. I don't care if I'm not good enough. I still have to try. He threw his head up, tears falling, facing the heavens. This is where I'll stay! It was a long journey, but when the medic finally went to the other side, the other Octonauts felt a difference in him. He was still quiet, gentle, saying please after every request. He still stuttered occasionally and gulped nervously whenever he was told a scary story. But there was something fundamentally different, a burning passion underneath, that reared its head occasionally. They could feel it like electricity sometimes, when they talked about the future, when a patient was in critical condition, when the penguin would gaze out the window when he thought no one was looking, with an expression of pure determination, almost looking like, surprisingly, anger. When asked, he would always say that he wasn't mad. It was something he couldn't explain. But remember how I said I was glad I was here? He would then put his flippers together, as if nervous of saying it out loud. But then he would look up again. Even when things are bad, I still feel that way. This is where I belong. This is where I'll stay.